This is the view I have working at my cottage today, and it's really windy. You can probably hear that on the video, but it's still a beautiful view, and I just love being here.
Hi there, welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra. Here on my channel, I love farmhouse decor, and I really love making something out of nothing. If that sounds like fun to you, I would love it if you could stick around and keep watching. Today's video is part of my Timber Tuesday series where everything I make is made from wood. It's really popular here on my channel, so I'm going to keep bringing it to you. First, I'll need to prep the wood pieces and make sure that they're the length I need. I'm using some pine pieces. These are from a tree that fell on our property, and I was able to just gather what I needed. I am using a Rockwell saw. It's a 4.5-inch blade, and it's a really wonderful tool to use if you're just starting out using power tools, especially saws. It has about a 2-inch cutting ability. So here you can see that I'm having to move the branch a little bit more because it was about 3 inches. So all I'm going to do is just spin it around and then cut again. If you're interested in checking this saw out, I'll have a link for it down in my description box. I'm using 2 of the longer pieces and I'm just putting them in a teepee shape or an A shape. What I've done is pre-drilled some holes and now I'm just adding some deck screws or wood screws to hold the 2 together. After pre-drilling the first couple of holes, I found that I didn't need to do that because this wood is still fairly fresh and was quite soft, so I was able to just drive the screw in using my impact driver. Next, I need to use another piece of wood to brace the A-frame, and I'm going to just use my saw again, and I've laid it across so I know how long I want it to be, and I just need to trim off just little edge right here. I'm going to add a couple of screws here in the front, and then I'm going to turn it over and add a couple more in the back. Here I'm still pre-drilling, but it's so handy to have a drill and then a driver because then you can easily switch back and forth between the two. I had my drill originally, and last year my kids bought me the impact driver because it does a fantastic job driving screws in and it doesn't let you strip them. So if you don't have a whole lot of strength to be able to drive different screws into your projects, an impact driver will really help. Here's where I stopped pre-drilling the holes when I finally figured out that the wood was soft enough that I didn't need to do that. So I've got my A-frame or teepee standing up, but I still have to attach the back piece of wood. It was just propped there for now. I'm going to make sure that I put a screw in from the back to each of the front wood pieces, and that will make it really secure. Then I'm going to move around to the front and do the same thing, going from the front 2 pieces and making sure that they go into the back piece. I want this to be super solid. Now I'm working on the bottom braces. I used the same saw and I cut out the pieces as long as I needed them to be. What I'm doing here is just putting them one on top of each other. So for example, the first one is at the bottom and now the second one I'm putting in on top. I'm screwing into the A-frame and I'm also screwing into each of the crossbars just to make sure again that this is a really sturdy piece and that it won't fall apart. Now I'm trying to figure out how to get this next piece on. I thought this one would be okay, but it just had too much of a bend in it. So I'm going to toss that one aside and look for another piece. While I was doing this and I was foraging all over our property for these branches, my hubby was working on cleaning up all the branches. I'm using the saw again to just cut down the piece where I need it to be. This is going to be my front piece, so I'm going to make sure that I put it on top of each of the back pieces, screwing it into place on each of the pieces of wood, and then I'm also going to screw it into the A-frame. Now I'm going to be cutting some smaller pieces, and starting at the very back with the smallest piece, I'm going to slowly work my way towards the front. And I'm also going to make sure that I screw these pieces in a few times at a few different angles, and that will just help support them really well. I hope you're enjoying my Timber Tuesday project today. I only have the one for you because I was at my cottage over the weekend and I was limited as to what I could do. But this is a big project and I thought it would be really fun to show you how I do it. If you like what you see, I would love it if you could stick around by hitting that red subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. The next part of this project is to make a nice big frame for the front of the easel. I took some barn board that I have at my cottage and I used my Rockwell saw to cut the length, but I also cut the width. I got 3 pieces out of one large piece of wood. So I went lengthwise and I clamped it down onto the picnic table and used the Rockwell saw to just cut through and rip a couple of pieces out of each board. Using the impact driver again, I'm going to just screw in some 3-inch screws and attach the frame together. Now, these boards are also very soft. They're old barn board that came from an old shed we took down, and I believe they were cedar. And since they're old and weathered and quite soft, I don't need to pre-drill. Here's the concept of the frame on the easel. You can see that the easel is completely finished. And now I'm just going to make sure that I screw the frame right into the easel. I'm going to again do it a few different times in a few different areas to make sure that it's really secure. For the top portion, I'm going to need to add one little piece of wood behind the left-hand easel bar because the frame was not 100% perfect. You can see it wiggled there a little bit. So I wanted to make sure that it was secure too. I found a little piece of cut off wood and I'm just wedging it in between the frame and the easel. And this is going to give that side of the frame really good stability. So I'm going to screw it in to the little piece of wood and then I'm going to screw the little piece of wood into the easel and that will keep it really nice and strong. The last piece of this project is a hummingbird. I am going to be cutting that out using my jigsaw. I freehand drew it onto this piece of plywood, which is fairly thick. When you're using a jigsaw, the thinner the material, the more it bounces around, but the thicker material is sometimes a little bit harder to get through. The jigsaw just moves up and down and it gives you a lot of control over where you want to make your cut. I'm just following the line of what I drew and I'm going to stop and just change direction just to make it easier for myself. And I do apologize. I know that the camera is jumping up and down. I totally forgot and didn't think about taking it off of the picnic table while I was doing the jigsaw. So it's going to be bouncing up and down here. So I'm not going to make you watch this too long. Here's my hummingbird cut out. It turned out really great, and I'm so pleased with how it did turn out. I was afraid that I would maybe crack the beak when I was cutting it, but I did really well. So what I'm doing now is just sanding it down with my little hand sander here, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a beveled edge, which means I'm going to round out those edges on the top of the bird just to make sure that they're really nice and smooth, and it just gives it more of a professional look. I'm also going to make sure that any of my pen marks are gone, and I'm going to also do a little bit on the back side of this bird just to make sure that there aren't any splinters. Because my frame isn't 100% centered on the easel, that can't be helped because of the way the branches are when I made the easel, but I'm going to put the hummingbird on this side and I'm going to just screw in from the back. I don't want any of the screws to be seen from the front of the hummingbird, so I'm just going to go to the back, hold it in place, and then screw it in. I'm going to give the frame and the hummingbird one coat of white latex paint, just regular house paint, and this is how it turned out. I think it's gorgeous. And it will look even better once I add a plant. If you liked this video today, please give me a thumbs up. That gets me noticed more on YouTube and really helps my channel grow. Make sure you also click that notification bell so you don't miss anything I have for you in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.